Hi everybody, this is the Trailer Park Prophet, coming at you live from beautiful downtown Crestone, Colorado on Blog Talk Radio. Alright, let's get into it. Again, my name's Daniel Gray. I am your host du jour on the Blog Talk Radio Network. This is the Trailer Park Prophet Show. We like to call this show Sunday on Monday. We try to recap what people were talking about over the weekend. And I gotta admit, I don't really know what was going on this weekend. You know, I for the last 6 months, I haven't had cable, so I'm not watching all the cable news programs. So I'm not really up to speed on what those people are doing on the lamestream media. And so, and I you know what? I don't really care to know. There's more stuff on my Facebook page about what's going on from more varied sources, a world of varied sources on the very same things that the mainstream media either doesn't talk about or doesn't discuss at any length. I mean, there's no real reporting going on the mainstream media other than 15 minutes, half hour a day. You know, it's kind of a waste of time, really, to even watch the Sunday talk programs. Although, having said that, I do recognize that the Sunday programs are kind of cool because I think they are generally an hour long, and they do have a panel of experts, which a lot of times provide some insight into what the movers and shakers are thinking, and that's why I always thought it was important to try to recap what they were doing. But I gotta admit, I kind of fell down on my duties, and I haven't really been following what's going on in the mainstream media. I'm on CBS's webpage right now, and I'm looking for something that went on this weekend, and it doesn't look like I can find anything right off the hand. But let's look. I want to look. All right, I might just have to blow this off. This is starting to get to be a little bit tedious. I'm really sorry about not having something for you today. I'm looking here really fast, and I don't see really anything about the Sunday talk shows. Let's see. A bunch of interesting things, you know, about their this week on YNR, Katie McCain joins the cast for this week's Young and the Restless. Oh my God. It's weird, you know, when the sons and daughters of political actors wind up on various news programs, like Chelsea Clinton now is a reporter for ABC, CBS, I can't remember. And then one of the Bush daughters, Jenna, she's on one of the programs about one of the news programs on one of the major networks. You know, that's kind of interesting. I don't know why. Let me see here. I'm still on CBS's website. You would think news. I can't remember exactly how they. Oh, this story is getting a lot of conversation. Did you see this? Cops in Utah, they actually went into this person's house, or the neighbors of Megan Huntsman say they never knew the woman had been pregnant, but I guess what happened was that this Utah woman, Megan Huntsman, actually had 6 newborns killed in her house. They went in this woman's house in Utah, and they found 6 dead babies. I don't know if they all went to term or really what in the world happened, but a lot of people are talking about that. And also, I guess a lot in the news, I guess everyone was talking about what we were talking about on Wednesday and Friday about the the ranching family, the Bundy ranching family, because I can see here's an article here that was posted today. Feds return cattle to rancher who they say owes more than $1 million in grazing fees. We actually have a response to that. And let's see, State Department under Hillary Clinton bypasses ethics guidelines for Boeing deal. Washington Post reports zero in on Clinton's mutually beneficial relationship with the aerospace giant. Oh, this is kind of interesting too. I saw this. A Russian Su-24 fighter came within a few thousand feet of a U.S. Navy ship in international waters in the Black Sea near the Ukraine. That's all over the internet right now. And let's see, where is the Sunday program? Trial set for... No, I don't want to do that story. Alright, well, I really don't see anything on CBS here that looks like needs to be reported on that isn't already going to be in our... Oh, one thing I want to say, this isn't in our stack of stuff to do. Total lunar eclipse early Tuesday morning. How to watch it. The moon will take on a dramatic, colorful appearance during the total lunar eclipse. I guess the Earth and Mars and the moon are going to line up in such a way that the red of Mars is going to somehow stain the color of the moon. So the moon's going to be red for a week. And it's something that only happens very rarely, like every 400 years, something like that. It's a very rare occurrence. And I guess it's going to happen right around 12 midnight. So I'm going to try, I'm going to have to set my alarm. I would definitely like to see the moon red. Let's see. Well, let's do this story. I know that the press was talking about this over the weekend. And this is from CBS. And this is kind of an interesting story. This was posted today. The feds seek hate crime persecution in Kansas area shootings. I don't know if you heard about this, but some real lunatic, I guess, in Overland Park, Kansas, they say that prosecutors have enough evidence to pursue hate crime charges in the shooting spree that killed 3 people at a Jewish community center and retirement complex near Kansas City. Authorities Monday said a day after the attack. Fraser Glenn Cross of Missouri, a known white supremacist, has not been formally charged in the slayings, but officials said more information about charges was expected Tuesday. Federal prosecutors were moving to put the case before a grand jury. Police suspect Cross fatally shot 2 people Sunday afternoon in a parking lot behind the Jewish Center of Greater Kansas City, then drove to a retirement community where he shot a 3rd person. He was arrested in an elementary school parking lot. Quote, "We have unquestionably determined through the work of law enforcement that this was a hate crime." Overland Park Police Chief Douglas John said, refusing to elaborate on the evidence. Cross was a former Ku Klux Klan leader and was once a subject of a nationwide manhunt, was jailed on preliminary charge of first-degree murder. And of course, they went into Cross's webpage and other postings he had on the internet. And it's pretty obvious that this guy was very anti-Semitic, and allegedly when the police were arresting him yesterday, he said, "Heil Hitler," reportedly. Let's see, what else do we have here? Described the suspect as known and vocal anti-Semite, for frequently calls for genocide against Jews, According to the Southern Poverty Law Center, Miller has been involved in the white supremacist movement for most of his life. He founded the Carolina Knights of the KKK and was its Grand Dragon in the 80s. The Army veteran and retired truck driver later founded another white supremacist group. So, well, we'll just have to see how this plays out. It'll be interesting to see how much attention this story gets from the lamestream media. And I bet they're just going to do this cursory report and then move on. And, you know, the question, of course, is just wait when somebody takes and decides to shoot up a mosque. You're going to know everything about that individual. You're going to know everything about his family. You're going to know if you ever listen to talk radio. You're going to know everything imaginable about anybody that shoots up a mosque. Now, this was a synagogue and a Jewish retirement community. I bet we're just going to get this cursory, introductory type reporting on this issue because it involved a Jew, not a Muslim, and the drive-by is going to just move on. You can rest assured that's going to be the situation. Alright, at any rate, let's see, where is news? I'm looking for, what is the 60 minutes? I don't know why I just can't move off of this issue. I just wanted to, late night, oh, this is here. Alright, I gotta move on. I'm screwing up here. Oh, by the way, you can call in to the Trailer Park Profit Show. All you gotta do is dial 646-716-8506, 646-716-8506, and I want to apologize. Friday, I had 5 callers, and I missed them all. Missed all my callers. I have got to get another screen. Okay, moving on. You know, this is kind of, I want to do, this isn't actually a story. But if you go to my Facebook page, you'll notice that there's a map there. And the title of the map, I want to stay on this page. The title of this map is Who Owns the West? Federal land is a percentage of total state land area. And this is put out by the Libertarian Party. And if you look at everything east of Colorado, the average amount of land that's owned by the federal government is about 10%. Everything east of Colorado, every single state east of Colorado, the federal government doesn't own more than 11% of any total state. All right? You got that? Every state east of Colorado, the government does, or the federal government does own federal land, state land within the boundaries of every state east of Colorado. And the most amount that's owned by the federal government, it looks like, is Kentucky with 11.8%. Now, Montana, Wyoming, Colorado, New Mexico, Arizona, Utah, Nevada, California, Oregon, Idaho, Washington, Montana, they all have amounts that the federal government owns in those particular states of almost 50%. Some are over 50%. Like as an example, in California, 45% of California is owned by the federal government. Alaska, 68% is owned by the federal government. Arizona, 48% of the land in Arizona is owned by the federal government. New Mexico, 47% owned by the federal government. Colorado, 36% of Colorado is owned by the federal government. Utah, 57%. Wyoming, 52%. Montana, 29%. Idaho, 50%. Oregon, 53%. And Washington State, 30% of the state is owned by the federal government. And this one guy here, Daryl Breland, suggests that the federal government should turn over all federal land to the states. And I kind of agree with that. But this is kind of in keeping with the theme today, talking about what happened to the Bunker family in Las Vegas. And, you know, and I guess just roughly I want to make the point before I leave this map. And by the way, this map got its data from the U.S. General Services Administration, the Federal Real Property Profile. This is from 2004. Includes trust properties. But this, you know, this is kind of where we're at in the United States, is that the land isn't owned by individuals in the West. It's owned by the federal government. And it's no coincidence that what happened in Nevada, and we actually have another case of a federal bureaucracy trying to push private ranchers and private landowners off of the public properties that are managed by various federal agencies. I wonder if I should probably check my camera here. Hang on a second. Yeah, you know, because I do have my very own. Oh, my hair is a mess. I do have my very own YouTube channel, so I download the show, and unfortunately people have to look at me for 2 hours, and right now I was out in the forest all day long, all morning long, and my hair is kind of a mess. But anyways, you know, most of you people, when you turn into YouTube, I don't know what you're looking for. You're certainly not getting a handsome devil to look at. Hopefully I have something to give to you in my story selection and commentary thereafter. Alright, I better get to the top story and start working my way down. You know, this is a really interesting story, and I've seen it all over the place on the internet. And this is from the Washington Free Beacon. And here's an article that this is written by Adam Credo, and he posted this on April 4th. But like I said, this story's everywhere. And it says the State Department misplaced or lost some $6 billion due to improper filing of contracts during the past 6 years, mainly during the tenure of former Secretary of State Hillary Clinton, according to a newly released Inspector General report. Now remember, every government agency has an Inspector General who is supposed to be a arbiter or an investigator, an inspector, somebody who is the eyes and ears of the people on every single government agency. So an Inspector General has to do a report every year and submit it to Congress. And they're supposed to be objective. The $6 billion in unaccounted funds poses a significant financial risk and demonstrates a lack of internal control over the department's contract actions, according to the report. The alert, originally sent on March 20th and just released this week, warns that the missing contracting funds could expose the department to substantial financial losses. The report centered on State Department contracts worth more than $6 billion, in which contract files were incomplete or could not be located at all, according to the alert. The failure to maintain contract files adequately creates a significant financial risk and demonstrates a lack of internal control over the department's contract actions, the alert states. The situation, quote, creates conditions conducive to fraud, as corrupt individuals may attempt to conceal evidence or illicit behavior by omitting key documents from the contract file, the report concluded. The State Department's inability to properly file its paperwork is causing most of the losses, according to the report. The IG, the Inspector General, found repeated examples of poor contract file administration over the years, the report said. Contracts related to the U.S. war in Iraq, for instance, could not be produced. in 33 out of 115 instances, according to the report. A recent OIG audit of the closeout process for contracts supporting the U.S. mission in Iraq revealed that contracting officials were unable to provide. All right, I already said that. They said that twice in this article. And let's see. Further audit of the department's Bureau of African Affairs found that the administrators were unable to provide complete contract admission files for any of the 8 contracts that were reviewed. And that's bad. I imagine they picked these contacts at random. But the African office is kind of interesting because, remember, we were reporting a year ago that there was claims from Egypt that the Obama administration was giving money to the Mohamed Morsi administration. He was the president of Egypt, and that him and a lot of his lieutenants were receiving money from the Obama administration State Department. And remember, there was accusation in Egyptian courts to that there were hush money given to the Muslim Brotherhood members, or they were getting contract salaries from the State Department. At any rate, it was included in court documents in Egypt, or at least that accusation was being made. And I wonder if that is part of where that $6 billion went. At any rate, that's a lot of money. $6 billion is a lot of money. And we'll have to see if this story goes anywhere. I mean, you know damn good and well the lamestream media isn't going to pick up this story and go hound Hillary Clinton or pester her at speeches and stuff like that. Oh, by the way, remember we reported on Friday someone threw a shoe at Hillary at a convention that she was being paid to attend for the garbage haulers? Well, they arrested the woman, and she's not a blonde. She must have been wearing a blonde wig. At any rate, her mugshot was all over the internet today. Let's see. I thought this was interesting, and I got this from my friend Afro City Brown. This is in the Wisconsin State Journal. Article written by Melvin Boone. And he says, kudos to the NFL for tackling the issue of the N word. As a self-respecting African American, I find it humiliating to be in a room with like-minded people when other blacks casually use the word as if it were a term of endearment. The N-word, by definition, places the African race on a collision course with evolution, leaving them frozen in an ape-like state. As one of slavery's most enduring legacies, the civil rights era of the 60s spawned a movement to end its use. James Brown led the way with his 1968 hit, Say It Loud, I'm black and I'm proud. We became brothers and sisters overnight. And I kind of remember this time. I was born in the 50s, but I was very much aware in the 60s, and I remember this song coming out. And I remember hearing about black pride, and, you know, I saw it as a good thing. And I do remember that having pride in oneself, if they're black, didn't include the N-word. I mean, the N-word back in the 60s and 70s was a very toxic word. Anytime you heard it, you just kind of shuddered. And then in the 90s and the 2000s, the word became very fashionable, and I always thought, my God, how odd. And I actually started using it for a while. I felt like, well, if all the hipsters and the black celebrities and entertainers are going to use the N-word, then, you know, that's green light to gringos like me that want to be hip and be able to use a word that is kind of fun to say, and if it, I felt like by people, blacks mainly, using it in the public square, that made it okay for gringos to say it too, but obviously that's not the case. I got that wrong. But this goes on to say, this Melvin Boone, Oak Hill Correctional Institution went on to say, but like an airborne virus, the N-word returned. Its carriers argue that replacing the with a at the end of the word redefines it. They fail to recognize this as a common nuisance or nuance in African American speech, and as a choice not to attach negative connotations unless uttered by other people. It's a self-hatred that says, quote, we'll riot if a white man kills a black boy wearing a hoodie, but acquiesce at the death of an innocent black child caught in the crossfire of warring black gangs. I mean, I don't know how you can add to Melvin Boone's words here other than that. I mean, what the hell's going on in the black community? I mean, it's unbelievable, really. You think about all the people that are being killed in Chicago, New York, Philadelphia, elsewhere, LA, other places across the country, and it's black on black violence, and there has been a lot of crossfire that has been killing innocent people. And all of that seems to go ignored. And it's just kind of chilling. I don't get it. The lamestream media is not going to report on black violence, as if it doesn't matter. And what's that say to the black community when they have so many unresolved murders? That tells you that your life is not worth as much as other people's. That's what it tells you. When you're forced to live in a war zone because of warring black gangs, and you're left defenseless because of a police force that's understaffed because of the legacy cost of past public employees, it basically says you're a second-class citizen. You're in a caste society. Your life isn't worth being investigated by the government authorities. And it says that kind of message throughout the whole society in a community like Chicago. It's an awful message, really. And it's probably one of the most racist things you could ever do to the black community, is to allow for their communities to devolve into war zones where warring black gangs are killing innocents in crossfire. Okay, back to Nevada. DC Clothesline, airing out America's dirty laundry. We've used these guys before. I really like them. And here's an article posted yesterday by a guy named David Hodges. And he writes here, the BLM has tucked their tail between their legs and run for cover. We're talking about this situation with the Nevada rancher, Mr. Bundy, Sheriff Mack, the other sheriffs, various state legislators, oath keepers, and average people who make up our militias personify the words courage, integrity, and honor. May God bless and protect every brave soul who went to aid the beleaguered family. Our American heroes prevented another Ruby Ridge, and Americans should forever be grateful to all who went to the aid of Kelvin Bundy. America still has many great people who are worthy of descriptive term hero. Kelvin Bundy also demonstrated to the world what it means to be an American and stand up to tyranny and win. Like so many overreaching federal agencies, when confronted, they are cowards and they tuck their collective tails between their legs and run for cover. Amen. As has been widely reported, get a load of this. Now, we touched on this Friday, but there was more information that I found over the weekend that suggests that this was exactly true, that the President of the Senate, Harry Reid from Nevada, was involved in a scheme to take the Bundy's land and turn it over to the Chinese to build a solar plant. And as it says here, as has been widely reported, the Chinese have paid $4.5 billion to build a solar plant on the Bundy property. The Clark County commissioners are on the hook for the money. This is why one of their own threatened to send anyone traveling to the aid of Bundy home in a body bag. Remember, we reported on that Clark County sheriff that said that anyone that came to Nevada to stand up with the Bundys was going to wind up going home in a body bag. There is absolutely no way that the Bundy affair is over. Sometimes our personal life experiences prepare us in ways which help us to understand an event in a manner that the general public will not see because the public does not have the experience. The events at the Calvin Bundy property is something that I've lived with through, and I can see clearly what is happening and what is coming. This is much more than a land grab and a case of simple cronyism resulting in a land grab of the Bundy's property. This kind of event has been happening and is happening as I write these words. Soon this kind of event will be commonplace. And there were a lot of articles I found over the weekend that were suggesting what happened at Bunkerhill, where the Bundy's ranch is, was a test case for the BLM and Homeland Security and other big federal government agencies. That they initiated this case against the Bundys, that they took action to confiscate their cattle and bring in Homeland Security, and they brought in the FBI. That this was nothing but the tip of the iceberg and sort of a test run, that the forces that be in the federal government wanted to provoke an incident like this to see who would respond. And you can bet their bottom dollar that anybody that was in or around Bunkerhill, Nevada, had their license plates copied by the FBI and probably Homeland Security, and that they're going to take this incident and they're gonna dissect it, and this is nothing more than like a dry run through. So that the next time they go after a private person's property, that they're prepared and ready for what is going to greet them. And it says nearly all people reporting on this issue see it as a one-time resource grab. Senator Harry Reid, his sons, and the Clark County commissioners and the Chinese government, the people reporting this are correct. However, this goes much, much further. Unfortunately, I have to experience to recognize this for what it is. Also, I have become across a Bureau of Land Management policy manual which spells out what is happening to Bundy and why. Let's see, and he goes into exactly, let's see if he has anything. At any rate, what happened with Bundy's and how they were pushing them off the land is actually documented in the Bureau of Land Management documents. And let's see if they go into that at all. To make things worse, my community also sits upon the largest underground water aquifer in Arizona, known as the Hashawayapa. The globalists needed our water to service the hub, and they could not allow 300 homes to drain the reservoir. So there's water being involved in this, and let's see what else we got here. And basically the author goes in to say that we ought to heed his words, and he's telling the American people that what is happening to Cleven Bundy is very similar to what happened in my own community, and it's happened here in the valley of the San Luis Valley, and the point being made here is that this is going on all over the United States, and it's politicians like Harry Reid in bed with big financiers from China, Russia, other countries all across the planet, but they're coming with their dollars or their yen or whatever, and they're coming to the U.S. and they're trying to buy land, and they're trying to develop, in this case, solar energy, and they're working closely with our political acting class and the federal government. And it's like we're totally out of the loop. The citizens of the United States are totally out of the loop for these type of land grab deals going on in the U.S. And the author suggests that this is more or less the case all across the country. So you want to watch this in your own community. You want to support people who are actually colluding with the federal government to go against ranchers and farmers and other people. A lot of times they use the Wetland Act. I can't remember when that was passed, back in the 80s, I think. But that document, that BLM document, the writer was talking about, the BLM produced document carefully spells out all the Agenda 21 precautions to protect the environment and indigenous wildlife in these early created solar energy zones. Now, Agenda 21 is a program in the United Nations, and basically what it aims to do, or to give guidance for political actors to do, is to force all of the humans into population zones, cities. And they literally want to be able to rid the landscape of people. They want all the people, or as many people as possible, pushed off rural lands and onto these population zones. That's Agenda 21. The document specifically mentions the tortoise and that it needs to be protected, which is at issue in the Bundy case. Every form of species is protected within these solar energy zones except for humans, and nothing is mentioned about how land would be acquired through the eminent domain process. But solar energy zones, I mean, what, have you seen these solar farms? I mean, they're all fenced off. That would keep the desert tortoise from going there. You know, and it's unbelievable. And then we reported that the federal government didn't have enough money to keep the desert tortoises in these facilities that they established, and they were thinking about euthanizing the tortoises because they didn't have enough money to take care of them. The same tortoises that they used as a toehold against the Bundy family in Nevada. The BLM document makes it clear that land can be acquired to protect local species which could be threatened. Could be. This is how the federal government is getting around declaring eminent domain and paying people fair market price for their land prior to stealing it. This is exactly what my community went through in the last decade in fighting against the Kaminix Highway. The Bureau of Land Management, whose director was Senator Harry Reid's former senior advisor, has purged documents from its website stating that the agency wants Nevada rancher Cleven Bundy cattle off of the land his family has worked for over 140 years in order to make way for a solar panel power station. I mean, this is unbelievable. And that's probably why the federal government backed off, because they knew that Senator Reid had this connection to this Chinese solar farm and that they wanted to utilize the Bundy Ranch for the Chinese solar facility. I mean, it's just It's just unbelievable. Noted researcher Vicki Davis sent me the location of the proposed solar farm where the Bundy's property is located, and its neighbor is Ellis Air Force Base. It's right there, and Harry Reid is aiding and abetting the Red Chinese to locate a facility to an Air Force base. The same overlap is mentioned in the previously identified BLM Solar Energy Zones document. God, I mean, this just gets weirder and weirder. And this is a pretty long article. I mean, there's other nuances to this that I'd like to share with you, but it's just unbelievable. You got the Agenda 21, you have our U.S. Senator, you have one of his ex-chief advisors in charge of the BLM, and you have Agenda 21 from the UN. And all of this has little or nothing to do with the American people, except that these people in the know, the political elite, are set to make bank on these deals. My dog Bailey is acting really strange today. Okay, let's see. Oh, here's an interesting story. I got this from Bare Naked Islam. And again, if you want to know about Islamophobia, or if you want to know about what's going on with radical Islam, this website, Bare Naked Islam, is right on the mark. I mean, they're cutting edge. They're following all of the Islamic movement across the whole world. They document it. They do good stories. I'm really surprised that they haven't been kicked off of Facebook, but they're still there, Bare Naked Islam. And their headline, not their headline, but their line is, it isn't Islamophobia when they really are trying to kill you. And let's see, we might have a video. No, we don't. Alright, at any rate, this is from Cleveland. Where are the media? He's asking, where are the media? Condemning Muslim cab drivers for refusing to drive for the gay games. Where is Eric Holder suing the cab companies for homophobia? Where are the courts forcing the drivers to ignore their beliefs as they do with Christians? Crickets. Muslim cabbies, for religious reasons, are refusing to drive cabs with signs promoting the gay games on top of their airport cabs. 19 Action News, Brian Duffy spoke with about 20 cabbies at the airport who are still driving, and all of them confirmed they are drivers who have walked off the job on protest. Representatives of America Cab, one of the 3 cab companies on the job at the airport, also confirmed the protest, but say only one of their drivers has been reassigned. We're told at least 17 to 18 drivers who work for Ace Taxi, another company working out of the airport, are no longer driving. We went to Ace, but we're told they were busy to talk to Yellow Cab, a third cab company at the airport, never returned calls. Tom Nob, the executive director of the game, says he's a bit disappointed. When you look at what's going on around the world, it's not a huge surprise. In some parts of the world, the LGBT folks are not very welcome, said Tom Noble of the Gay Games. Quote, even though there will be a handful of folks who are not comfortable, the vast majority, and we're seeing it now, are totally enthusiastic and ready to welcome all these folks to town. You know, and as a politician and business person myself, although very small, I would love to have the Gay Games. I mean, that would be a good convention to lasso for your community. And here's a quote from Abdullah Akin Quick. He said, they said, what is the Islamic position on homosexuality? And I told them, put my name in the paper. The punishment is not death. And I'm not going to change this religion. The punishment is death. I said that wrong. I'm so sorry. I blew that. I blew the quote. They said, what is the Islamic position on homosexuality? And I told them, put my name in the paper. The punishment is death. And I'm not going to change this religion. Abdullah Hakan Quick. So, there we got a few quotes here. Maybe we should do some quotes. From Rocky Lore. What a great name. Eric Holder will always take the side of Islam. And in some liberal lectures me on gay rights, I will challenge him to explain why he won't go after Islam. And really think about this. If you had the gay games, let's say Denver, and Tea Party cab drivers refused service to the gay athletes, there would be hell to pay. And it would be the lead story in the lamestream media for weeks on end. But in this case, nada. Let's see. Business, keep them. Alright, we better not say that's not very nice. Alright, I thought maybe we had a video. I'd like to see the news video. I think maybe we do. Let me check here. I'd like to get a local reporter from Cleveland to give us a little insight. And there is here's one sign that they have on a cab window. It says, we reserve the right to refuse service to anyone. Oh my. Okay, here we go. This is 19 Action News. And let's see if I can get a video. 19 Action News. Cab controversy. Yes, sirree. That is a controversy for sure. And remember, we had the gay barber that wouldn't cut the hair of gay people, or what was it? No, it was the Muslim barber that wouldn't cut hair for some reason. All right, here we go. We got some video here from Cleveland, from the 19 Action News digital team. How about that? Let's see if it plays. And it shows a picture of one of those advertisements, you know, that they have on cabs. And it shows a tennis ball, a soccer ball, basketball, baseball, and a disco ball. And it says the 2014 gaygames.com. Which is kind of weird in and of itself. Okay, here we go.
Controversy today. Some Cleveland cabbies are refusing to promote a major Cleveland event. Brian Duffy is live at Hopkins Airport with the details. Brian?
Well, Denise, actually, we are in downtown Cleveland. We're at the Cleveland Convention Center, where about 20 to 30,000 people will be here and in other venues across the city as the gay games come to Cleveland this August. And as you mentioned, those cab drivers aren't at all happy, at least some of them, with the way the games are being promoted. The protest centers around these signs promoting the gay games that are on the top of airport cabs. Some drivers, for religious reasons, and we're told these are predominantly drivers who are of the Muslim faith, are refusing to drive the cabs. I spoke with about 20 cabbies at the airport who are still driving. All of them confirmed there are drivers who have walked off the job in protest. Representatives of AmeriCab, one of the 3 cab companies on the job at the airport, also confirmed the protest, but tell me only one of their drivers has been reassigned. We're told at least 16 to 17 cabbies who work for Ace Taxi, another company working out of the airport, are no longer driving. We went to Ace, but we're told they were too busy to talk to us. Yellow Cab, the 3rd cab company at the airport, never returned our calls. Tom Noble, the executive director of the games, told me he's a bit disappointed.
When you look at what's going on around the world, I guess it's not a huge surprise. In some parts of the world, LGBT folks aren't very welcome.
But Tom Noble still believes these games will be a huge success.
And even though there will be a handful of folks who are not comfortable, the vast majority, and we're seeing it now, are totally enthusiastic and ready to welcome all these folks into town.
Yeah, we have been in contact with both the city of Cleveland and the airport. Both are working with us and tell us that they are coming up with some kind of statement or will tell us something about this cab controversy in the near future. In Cleveland, Brian Duffy, 19 Action News.
You know, the Constitution guarantees freedom of association. So if you want to have a black club, you ought to be allowed to have a black club. If you want to have a gay club, that should be considered appropriate under our constitutional republic. And if you want to have gay games, there again, that's your freedom of association, your right for association, your right to be able to assemble. And I don't know why, I don't understand the point of even having gay games. I mean, gay people are people too, but to try and make them out to be some sort of a minority class, a protected class, just because of how they use their mucous membranes, for me is just absurd. It's absolutely absurdity. You know, and it's saying in a way, well, why don't we have the black games or the Latino games? And maybe we'll see that in the future, but it seems like a way to just divide us as a nation rather than to pull us together as a nation. And how do you know all these people competing are gay? Are they going to have to provide a video or pictures or a letter from their doctor to say that, in fact, you are gay? Because there would be a chance in the gay games to have individuals that are, what do they call them? You know, they could bring in professional athletes that aren't gay just to win the games. I mean, there's a big potential here for fraud. Ringers, that's what I was thinking of. They could bring in heterosexual ringers to win some of these events. I mean, how do you know the athletes at the gay games in Cleveland are actually gay? And I bring this up only as a way to demonstrate how this is so absurd in my mind. And, you know, I'm torn because on the other side of the coin is their right of freedom of association, freedom to assemble. But this whole gay issue is nothing more than a manufactured issue. And if you went and checked into who's sponsoring these gay games, if you were able to find out where the money is coming from, follow the money, you would find out that a lot of these organizations are progressive socialist organizations. Most likely they're getting money from George Soros, and George Soros will promote anything that tears apart the fiber and fabric of this American society. And I think you would find a lot of nefarious sources that are funding these gay games. But the big irony is that the progressive socialist statists are in bed with radical Islam. And it's just kind of an interesting conflict that's taking place in Cleveland, because you have the progressive socialist statists that are in bed with radical Islam. Their radical beliefs of Islam are now causing embarrassment over America's and the president's support of gay people. You know, it's just total insanity. It's interesting, though, to see how our society now is presenting, and how the various groups and different interests are colliding. And then, of course, what's interesting is watching all the political actors and all the people on the public Square react to this manufactured event in Cleveland, the Gay Games. And it'll be, you know, the Gay Games are in the fall. I think they're in October in Cleveland. So it'll be interesting to see how much attention the liberal, progressive, socialist media pays to the Gay Games, and how they deal with this issue with the Muslim cab drivers refusing to drive around with gays in their cars, much less the gay advertisement on top of the cabs. I mean, this has a potential for an interesting showdown. And I would love it, wouldn't you just love it if someone was actually being a random journalist and asked the president what he felt about the Gay Games and the refusal by Muslim cab drivers to ferret around gay people? Ask the president what his opinion of that is. All right, I have one of these creative little sayings from the Patriot Post. It says here, when you claim voter ID laws are inherently racist, you really mean that you believe minorities are too stupid to figure out how to get an ID, which underscores your own stupidity and racism. Stay classy, Democrats. You know, and I like this post because I've been trying to think of a way to address all of the vitriol from the Democrats every time somebody tries to make our elections cleaner. And having an ID when you sign up to vote, you would think would be standard operating procedure. But that is basically what you're saying. If you're saying that voter ID laws are racist, you basically are saying that minorities are too stupid to get a ID, which is anything but the case. But you really are being racist. You're saying, oh my God, black people, Mexicans, they're too stupid to get an ID, so they won't be able to vote. Well, if they're too stupid to get an ID, maybe they shouldn't be voting. And I would say that of white people too. But again, it's a manufactured issue, and we're going to have to hear it a lot during this election cycle, because that's one of their what do you call it, propaganda points that's going to be used in the 2014 election cycle. All right, we got a video here from Fox News. This actually is from Sunday, and of course this is Sunday on Monday. You're listening to the Trailer Park Prophet Show live on Blog Talk Radio from beautiful downtown snowy Crestone, Colorado. We got some snow last night. I still can't see the mountain, which means it's probably still snowing up high. We got something like 6 wet inches here in Crestone, Colorado, and we desperately need it. We have been in a 7-year drought cycle, and I believe the Santa Cristals are at 100% of snowpack, and maybe this particular storm put us over 100%, which would really be a good thing. In fact, my well, I have 2 wells out at the goat ranch, and it sounds like maybe they blew the pressure. Maybe there's more water down below than normal. And of course, artesian wells, these are artesian wells, they actually operate on force on the water, or force on the water below to force it up. So ironically, my wellhead got blown off, and I'm going to have to go out and fix it somehow. Money, money, money. Alright, at any rate, I got this story from Media ITE. This was posted yesterday, and we have I hope I have the video. I think I have the video. This was on Fox News. Now this is on Fox News yesterday, and this guy, Britt Hume, weighed in on Obama and Holder, how they benefited from being Afro-American. Although, remember, Obama is not a black American. He is a mulatto American, because he's half white, half black. He's not black. He's a mulatto. But here is Brent Hume on Fox News Sunday talking about how Obama and Eric Holder, Obama's chief law enforcement officer at the Justice Department, have benefited from being African American. Because here recently we reported on this that Eric Holder said that the reason that Congress has been so harsh on the Obama administration and the Justice Department is because America and the press are racist, and Congress is racist to ask difficult questions of Eric Holder, because he's half white too, I think too, but they're blaming all of the scrutiny because of Fast and Furious and the IRS going after the Tea Party is not legitimate issues, just that they are straight up racism, which is preposterous, but what are you going to do? Okay, so here we go. Here is Brent Hume on Fox News Sunday. Take it away. Come on. Alright, if I was smart, which I'm not, I would have pushed go while I was talking to you. Okay, here we go. From Media, ITE.
Attorney General Holder said the Obama administration has faced, his words, unprecedented, ugly opposition, and speaking to Al Sharpton's National Action Network, he clearly implied it's because of race. Rick, does he have a point?
I don't think so, and I think, well, you know, first of all, it's false that no Attorney General, no President has been subjected to this kind of treatment. After all, Bill Clinton was impeached. Think about that for a moment. John Mitchell went to jail. And the list is long of Attorney General and other officials who have been subjected to some very rough treatment on Capitol Hill and elsewhere. And this strikes me as kind of crybaby stuff from Holder. My sense about this is that both Eric Holder and Barack Obama have benefited politically enormously from the fact that they are African American and the first to hold the jobs that they hold. And this, I don't know if he specifically meant race or not. I suspect perhaps he did. But to those two men, race has been both a shield and a sword that they use effectively to defend themselves and to attack others. And I think it is depressing at this stage in our national life, after all we've been through on this issue, and given the overwhelming consensus on the issue of civil rights, that this kind of stuff is still going on.
I think it's fair to say that this is widely seen, these kinds of comments, as an effort by the Obama administration to try to mobilize black voters, if this is to the National Action Network, in advance of the Republican, or rather,
and I don't know. I mean, I don't want to go into this too much, except to say that this is what we're going to be hearing for the next 2 years of the Obama administration. Every criticism of Obama or Eric Holder or anybody else that is black is going to be blamed on racism and not the actual content of their official behavior. Now here we have, here we go. We have black congressman, black senator from Tennessee. God, I can't think of his name right now. He's the only black U.S. senator. And his name right now is escaping me, but we might have a video of him. He was on one of the morning talk shows. And, Scott. Senator Scott. And I believe it's actually from North Carolina, South Carolina. At any rate, he was on one of the morning talk programs Sunday, and here he is, Senator Scott.
Did Kathleen Sebelius have to go, and how do you explain the timing of her resignation?
Well, there's no doubt that she had to go. When you think of healthcare.gov being synonymous with failure, there has to be changes. The real question that we should be asking ourselves is, as we look at the upcoming confirmation hearing, will the next secretary have the Americans first, or will they have the administration's policies and trying to carry the water for the president as their primary responsibility?
Well,
All right, here I see one story here. This one kind of popped up. This is Cheryl Atkinson slams CBS News Obama administration chilling effect. This is something we do want to listen to. This actually was on Fox News too. But remember, Cheryl Atkinson was a CBS reporter who had to resign recently because of her disagreement with the CBS front office in regards to reporting on stories that made President Obama look bad. She was actually being a journalist. And she was on Fox News Sunday as well. And she's talking about what's going on with the Obama administration and how the Obama administration has been getting wiretaps recently on Associated Press. They had 100 actual wiretaps on reporters for the Associated Press. They had wiretaps on this guy who's also a reporter for Fox News. But at any rate, this Cheryl Atkinson was basically forced out of her job because she wanted to do basic journalism of the current administration. So let's give this a listen here. Again, her name is Cheryl Atkinson. She's a reporter for CBS, or was a former reporter for CBS. And she was on Fox News Sunday. So let's give a listen here.
Cheryl Atkinson is an Emmy Award-winning reporter who has investigated a wide range of subjects, including Obamacare and what happened at Benghazi.
3 current, fairly high-ranking State Department officials, an expert in security, an expert in counterterrorism, and a top diplomat will in essence be contradicting parts of
Come on, Cheryl.
the Obama administration's accounts on Benghazi.
She resigned from CBS News last month after years of battling her bosses over why most of her scoops weren't getting on the air. We sat down earlier here in Studio 1. Cheryl Atkinson, welcome.
Thank you for having me.
You had been covering the Benghazi story for CBS. Former acting CIA director Mike Morrell recently testified that it was the PR people at the CIA that removed the references to Al-Qaeda from the infamous talking points given to administration officials. Is that a significant story at this point?
Well, in a way, just because it's so different than what was said closer to the act actually happening. When Morrell was asked these questions, or when they were asked in front of him in the months after the attacks, he didn't offer up the information. And in one case, when he did...
Come on, Cheryl Atkinson. We're wanting to listen to you. Alright, something's going on with this video. Alright, we gotta kill this story. At any rate, she's just basically saying that when she worked at CBS that she would follow news stories that were... Oh, here we go. Nope, she's gone. At any rate, Cheryl Atkinson was basically just saying that while she was at CBS, that she would follow stories that the average reporter would want to follow. What's going on in the administration, what's going on with crime, and what's going on with various things in corruption and government and all the things that go on in this harried life we all live. But generally, she was told by higher ups that she wasn't going to be able to air certain stories, and that she was basically being censored, and that anything that was critical of the Obama administration or anything from the progressive socialist status government elite was going to be forbidden from reaching the air at CBS, so that her stories were being focused on making the president and his administration look good. And I guess President Obama was on 60 Minutes Sunday. I missed that. I got this story, though, from Breitbart, and on 60 Minutes Sunday, CBS aired an interview with President Obama about his impression of Pope Francis after he met with the pontiff at the Vatican at the end of March. So let's give a little listen here. Here is President Barack Obama. I'm trying to see who is he with. President Obama, and it looks like Chris Matthews, but let's give a listen here, see if we can get some insight into what the president had to say yesterday.
Can you give me a sense of what it's like to be in the presence of Pope Francis?
All right, this is Chris Cross. All right, that's interviewing the president in the White House yesterday, or it was aired yesterday on 60 Minutes. So here we go.
He projects the kind of humility and kindness that is consistent with my understanding, at least, of Jesus' teachings. His simplicity and his belief in the power of the spiritual over the material reflects itself in everything that he says and does. And I suspect, my sense is that he's a little bit uncomfortable with all the trappings of being Pope, embarrassed by them. Well, that's not his style. And that is part of why I think he's been so embraced around the world. Because people get a sense that first and foremost he sees himself as a priest and as a disciple of Christ and as somebody who is concerned with the least of these. What did the Pope say to you in that meeting that inspired you? We spent a bulk of our conversation around issues of poverty and inequality, themes that he's been talking about quite a bit. And obviously issues that I care about deeply. The very poor finding fewer and fewer ladders to get into the middle class, youth unemployment high. These are chronic problems. What the Pope's able to do in a way that no politician can do is to shake people's conscience and to shine a light on the problem. It's our job to come up with policies to do something. What the Pope can do is to help mobilize public opinion.
But how practical is that? Stalin once said of the power of the papacy, how many divisions does the Pope have?
I'm a big believer in the power of conscience, the power of faith, the power of a message of hope. I think over time that's what moves history. Tanks and divisions and dollars and cents, all those things obviously make a difference. But ideas are the most powerful thing on earth.
Oh my God, what a crock. I'm sorry. And he's talking about how tanks and warriors don't make a difference. He's making a slap at Putin and what's going on in the Ukraine. So there again, here is Mr. President Thinskin taking cracks at Putin and dragging Putin into a chit-chat conversation with sycophant CBS reporter Chris Cross. I mean, God almighty. This guy is so unsophisticated, it's unbelievable. All right, here is another story from Breitbart. I just saw this. It says new figures by the Congressional Budget Office released on Monday reveal that over the next 10 years, the U.S. debt to GDP, which is gross domestic product ratio, will double to 78%. Over the last 4 decades, America's average debt to GDP ratio was 39% at the end of 2007. Federal debt was just 35% of GDP. The CBO, which is the Congressional Budget Office report, says gross federal debt will soar from $17 trillion to $27 trillion over the next 10 years. $27 trillion that we're stealing from our children and grandchildren. The CBO warned of dire consequences the national debt will have if gone unchecked. Quote, such high and risking debt would have serious negative consequences, says the report. Federal spending on interest payments would increase considerably when interest rates rose to more typical levels. Moreover, because of federal borrowing would make eventually raise the cost of investment by businesses and other entities, the capital stock would be smaller and the productivity and lower wages. If a federal borrowing has more limited. The report added, finally, high debt increases the risk of financial crisis in which investors would lose much confidence in the government's ability to manage its bulge, that the government would be unable to borrow at affordable rates. And of course, that's the real problem. I think if memory serves me, we pay something like $500 million a year in interest on the amount of money that we owe. All right, we do have a little video here. This is from the Hill. Give us a little more insight into our borrowing problems, our debt problems. It's like a heroin addict needing more heroin and telling their John whatever they can to try to convince their John to give him money. You know, I mean, that's the federal government. It's like a prostitute telling a John that they need a little extra money to buy medicine for their child that's at home. I mean, it's the same way that the federal government operates. Hey, you gotta give us this money, or we're gonna push Granny and all the little orphans out into the street. All right, here's this video.
The Nonpartisan Congressional Budget Office on Monday released revised deficit projections for this year and the coming decade. CBO revised its estimate for 2014 downward by about $23 billion, saying that its technical revisions and legislation passed since February have caused it to lower the number. Over the next 10 years, CBO has also lowered its deficit projection by $286 billion, but it's still $7.6 trillion in deficits over the coming decade. CBO said that even though deficits will be falling through 2015, it expects them to rise sharply after that, and warns that unless entitlement programs and the aging of the baby boomer generation can be dealt with, deficits will continue to grow in the out years.
And just as a sense of perspective, remember when Bush took over office in 2000, the national deficit was between $4 and $5 trillion, and then when Bush left office after 8 years, it was $8 or $9 trillion. And now, under Obama, the current deficit is $17 trillion. I'm trying to kill this goddamn ad here. Oh my God. Stop! Alright, to recap. Under Bush came into office in 2000. The national debt was roughly between $4 and $5 trillion. When Bush left office 8 years later, it was $9 trillion. Now our national debt under Obama is $17 trillion, and in the next 10 years, our national deficit is going to be $27 trillion. It's not sustainable, my fellow lovers of liberty. Oh, here, Jay Carney calls reporters question lame. Let's listen. Jay Carney, of course, we have another story, so this is kind of apropos. This was, I believe, today in the White House briefing room. And Jay Carney, you know, Kathy Sebelius, who is head of the Health and Human Services that oversaw the rollout of Obamacare, resigned. Of course, a lot of people were talking about that this Sunday, and she's going to be replaced. So this was Jay Carney talking about Kathy Sebelius' resignation as the head of the Federal Health and Human Services and essentially ahead of Obamacare. So here's Jay Carney.
The president was there only with the vice president behind the podium. And I think you heard from the president. Yeah. So, honestly, I think you heard from the president of the United States. Well, that's a pretty long. But the president, I think, gave you plenty of sound. today on his feelings about psychosis of those he serves. So you got it from him. You got it pretty clearly.
And basically what Jay Carney was doing in the presser today was just saying, look, we're not going to talk about it. She's gone.
How your medication will work.
Uh-oh.
When you want to know if insurance will cover your prescriptions.
All right. What's going on here? Hang on a second. I got to figure out how to kill this.
Close is your King Soopers pharmacy. Just ask. Your neighborhood King Soopers pharmacist.
Oh my God! I have no idea where this is coming from.
Need to know more about your medications? Your King Soopers pharmacist.
Oh, here we go.
Find out how your medications might interact with your diet or other prescription.
All right, kill the story. Okay, so at any rate, we have a new head of Obamacare, a new head of Health and Human Services. The lady's name has been released. I don't have it on the tip of my tongue. She was actually the woman that was in charge of parks, I think, something like that. And ironically, remember when they had the sequester shutdown of the federal government? 17% of the federal government got shut down during the sequester. Remember, the White House no longer allowed the people to see the White House, and they shut down the National Mall, and they actually had to buy barricades or get barricades and pay people to set them up, and to keep the veterans from the World War II War Memorial. Remember, they did that during the whole government shutdown manufactured issue. Well, the lady that ordered that shutdown is the lady that's going to be the appointee for the replace Kathy Sebelius at Health and Human Services. But she was also the woman that gave permission to a group of illegal aliens to have a demonstration in support of immigration reform. So she wouldn't allow the veterans to use the National Mall during the whole government shutdown. Remember back during, what was that, October, November, somewhere at the end of the year in the fall of last year, 2013. But she would allow illegal immigrants to make their case for immigration reform. And that's a huge slap in the face for the veterans. All right, I have something here I got from the Heritage Foundation, and they're claiming that JFK, John Fitzgerald Kennedy, was the last true Democrat. And I wrote here that no way in hell could John F. Kennedy get the Democratic 2016 presidential nominee. No way in hell could John F. Kennedy be the Democratic nominee in 2016 for the President of the United States. No way in hell. And here's a perfect example of a quote by John F. Kennedy that will tell you the same thing I already know, that John F. Kennedy was more of a Republican than he was a Democrat. It's not so much that he was more of a Republican than a Democrat, but I think this illustrates clearly how the Democratic Party has gone so far to the left. And here's a quote from John F. Kennedy. "Every dollar released from taxation that is spared or invested will help create a new job and a new salary." That's supply-side economics. That's conservative economics. You put the money back in the hands of the private sector and they're going to create jobs. But if you give it to the government, they create jobs, but they create a charge against the public treasury. All those government jobs cost money. And that's the thing a lot of people don't understand. Government jobs don't create hardly any economic activity because you're pulling that money from the private sector. You're giving it to a non-productive government employee. Because remember, a government employee doesn't produce anything, a good or a service. All they do is regulate and cause more private industry to actually, dovetail to they're rules and regulations that are promulgated by bureaucrats. But bureaucrats don't pay taxes because bureaucrats, government employees, are a net liability to society. We gotta take money from the private sector, or we gotta print money in order to pay for all those salaries and benefits of the government employees. Government employees do not pay taxes. I mean, it may say they pay taxes, but all it is a reduction in the amount of money that the private sector is on the hook for. I touched on this story earlier. A federal court ruled that the feds must honor Arizona's requirement to provide proof of citizenship when registering to vote. Boy, is that radical. And I don't know what court that was. I'm trying to figure that out right now. Arizona, so that would be the 10th District Court, I believe, in Denver. Because the 9th District Court in San Francisco would have ruled that, hell, you shouldn't have to have a legitimate ID to register to vote. Anyone ought to be able to go to their neighborhood voter registration place and register to vote, whether you're a citizen or not. You know, I guess that's their argument. But I imagine this was the 10th District Court based out of Denver that recently ruled that the feds must honor the Arizona requirement to provide proof of citizenship when registering to vote. Now remember, Eric Holder, our chief legal officer under the Obama administration, has said that this new law in Arizona requiring proof of citizenship as racist, remember that was a big court case for Eric Holder and something that they've been working on for quite a while, the Democrats and the progressive socialist status. You know, they basically want to make it so that everybody can sign up, whether they're citizens or not. I mean, basically that's what they're encouraging is voter fraud. I mean, if you can sign up in one county to vote and not have to show proof of citizenship, then you could probably go around to all the various counties in any state and sign up to vote and not have to show an ID and say that you want to vote absentee, so they send your ballot in the mail. I mean, I bet there's people out there that are voting in multiple counties, multiple states. I'll bet you voter fraud is rampant in this country, but it's not reported on, so no one knows anything about it. Oh, this is an interesting video. This is actually on YouTube, and this is of Hillary Clinton laughing at the question that she was supporting Al-Qaeda in Syria and Libya. Here's Hillary Clinton. I believe that this was published April 10th. Now, we got a little ad here. Skip ad. Here we go. Hillary Clinton talking about why did her administration support Al-Qaeda. Okay. And before she says anything, she's actually before the American Jewish Congress. All right, here we go. Hillary Clinton.
Hillary, why did you support Al-Qaeda in Syria and Libya? Are you just going to laugh? It's a very serious question, Ms. Hillary Clinton.
Sir, we can actually...
Why did you support Al-Qaeda in Syria and Libya? Sir? It's a very serious question. We're supposed to be fighting them. U.S. intervention always happens with a political agenda.
Excuse us, sir. This is not the time. I'm sorry. This is not the time.
This is the only time we ever get, so we got to take advantage of it. We're accepting members of the press. We're just asking a simple question. We mean no problem. But Al-Qaeda in Libya and Syria, why did you support those rebels? Al-Qaeda in Syria and Libya. Hillary.
Why did you support them?
No,
Why did you support Al-Qaeda in Syria and Libya?
not this time, sir.
Are you just going to laugh?
I'll tell you what, man, that guy has some cojones. I mean, he was...
What we found in Syria, first when we were in the Beirut, in the camp, refugee camp, where thousands and thousands of Syrians had fled from Syria into the...
All right, well, you know, I mean, that was a little gonzo journalism by the part of this individual. I guess his name is Luke Rudkowski, asked Hillary Clinton why she supported Al-Qaeda in Syria and Libya. And it's a legitimate question. We've been talking about it a lot here at the Trailer Park Profit Show because it's profoundly interesting to consider that the Obama administration has been giving not only military aid, but also humanitarian aid to the rebels in Syria and in Libya, and a lot of times that aid went to pro-Al-Qaeda forces. I mean, we've talked about this ad nauseum for the last 2 years, and here it is again, the Secretary of State, former Secretary of State Hillary Clinton, refusing to answer that question. And there again, you know, we need more random acts of journalism out there, because this would have been the type of question that should have been asked of Hillary before Congress or at a press conference or at any venue where there's supposed to be so-called reporters. Because it's clear. I mean, we understand that Al-Qaeda has been getting aid from the U.S. And how can that be? It totally blows my mind that that's actually taken place, and yet it is. Why are we supporting radical Islam? Why is the Obama administration supporting radical Islam? Let's see, what do we got here? Behind the scenes glimpse of all the mainstream media crews brave enough to cover the Bundy Ranch BLM showdown. Let's see, we might have a little bit of a synopsis here of what the mainstream media did or didn't do in regards to what happened out there at the Bundy Ranch in Nevada. I'm trying to see if they have a video here that we can listen to, and I don't see it, but at any rate, not at all surprised. I didn't watch the mainstream media. I don't know how they dealt with the Bundy story in Nevada. My guess is they're going to give a cursory type of report and imply that the Bundys and their supporters are mere lunatics and move on to another story. Okay, did I talk about what happened in Kansas? I think I did. Oh yeah, I did. I already did that story. Here's something interesting. This was at the Bundy showdown out in Nevada. You know, and you see this all the time when they know that there's going to be some kind of controversy and there's going to be two diabolically disposed sides. They meaning the officials, in this case the BLM and the FBI, they put together a fenced off area and they call it the First Amendment area. And someone wrote underneath this sign, it says, First Amendment is not an area, and I added to that, the entire USA is a First Amendment area. And to force people into a cattle pen to demonstrate against the government is somehow I mean, what are they, do I have my Constitution here? I mean, the Constitution on the First Amendment is pretty clear that Congress should make no law infringing upon the rights of an individual to pursue their right of free speech. And putting them into a damn cattle pen seems like some sort of an infringement, at least in my mind. I'm not going to do that story. Feds. Oh, here we go. Okay, so we tried to bring you up to speed on what's going on with the Bundy family in Nevada. Now here comes a similar story. I got this from America's Freedom Fighters, and same kind of thing, only we have the Federal Force Service involved. And it says, when Kit Langley answered the knock at his door Saturday, law enforcement officers from the U.S. Force handed him a piece of paper announcing his Diamond Bar Ranch in southwest New Mexico could be shut down Wednesday, and his 300 herd of cattle grazing there would be removed one way or another. Other Forest Service officials were busy nailing similar notices on fence posts along the highway, informing neighbors that after February 13th, they should not attempt to enter the Diamond Bar Ranch. Lance was surprised. He knew someday there would be an on-the-ground confrontation to enforce the 1997 court ruling which says his cattle are trespassing on federal land. That day has arrived. Langley insists the land in question belongs to him. The Forest Service says it belongs to the federal government. So far, the federal court is on the side of the Federal Forest Service, but Langley is not willing to throw in the towel and give up on the land that has been in his family since long before the U.S. Forest Service. Now, I went and read this whole account of what was going on, the Langleys, and I mean, they were able to document their family presence on this land back to like 1885. And then there was the beginning of the BLM and the Forest Service and all these other government agencies that came after the Langley and their family, who were actually homesteaded, and they were able to utilize this land and utilize the water. But what's going on now is that all of these federal agencies are going after private landowners, and they're using environmentalist laws and regulations promulgated by bureaucrats as their toehold and their impetus to push people off of their land. And this is a really good article. It's really kind of long, but it kind of gives you a chronological order to this land, and how it came into the Langley family, and how over the years then all these various government entities were created, and now here we have a family that's been on this land. Their family's been on this land for over 100 years, and now these new government agencies are now trying to push them off the land. So again, you start thinking, oh my God, United Nations, Project 21. And it's just an example of an overreaching, bully government on American people. And remember, America is supposed to be a country of laws, not men. And we are supposed to be a country of citizens that are allowing to be governed. We're not just these derelict serfs who were lucky to have all of these gifted academia nuts in positions of power to bestow upon the public what they think the perfect world is. And you know, these people who just want to be humans and live on the land, away from society, away from government, are basically the victims of this overreaching federal government under Barack Hussein Obama. And which is, I guess I got to do this. I mean, this goes into it. Here, this is back to what was going on at the Bundy Ranch, and this is kind of gives you an idea about what's going on with the federal government and how they view Bundy and this Langley family, and that this is in essence psychops by the federal government. In other words, here, listen to this guy. He's kind of interesting, and I think you're going to glean a lot from this guy. His name, you know, he's talking about the Bundy Ranch, and he's talking about how the government is actually performing psych ops, which I mentioned earlier. You know, they want to know what's going on in the psychic of people and how far they can be pushed and what their reaction is going to be, so that the federal government can be ready in the future for this same type of pushback from people that want to protect their land, protect their way of life, protect their standing under our federal constitution. So I think this guy does a pretty good job of analyzing what's going on in Nevada with the federal government and what to expect in the future. And I don't have this guy's name, but he was the one that brought up that the federal government actually was doing a psych op operation in Nevada. All right, take it away, unnamed individual.
Gary Franchi here, Next News Network.
Gary Franchi.
If you're paying attention, and I know you are, and you're subscribed to this channel, you've already seen or heard the covertly recorded session with the BLM agent in charge, Dan Love, saying some pretty inflammatory things regarding the standoff at the Bundy Ranch. But now something else has come out, and this just broke in the last several hours. It's Sunday morning now. This is getting pretty exhausting tracking all this stuff. But here, this is what we've got so far. The stand down by the BLM, as many has suspected, is just a ruse. It is a simple ruse. It is a bait and switch. It is a distraction so that we think, oh, it's all done, it's all over, celebrate, everyone stand down, everyone stop paying attention. That's exactly what's happening right now. Everyone's closing up shop and they think it's over, but it's not. It certainly is not. And this came in just yesterday. A source at the Department of Homeland Security said the people are being hoodwinked into believing the situation is being resolved. It is not. It is a strategic de-escalation to fool the public. All right, get the word out. We need you to spread the word. Share this video right now. The source stated that the retreat of the BLM agents and the release of the cattle was actually crafted as a potential plan on the 11th of April, and it's based on four points, okay? A military assessment of satellite and drone surveillance imagery of the Patriot resistance, okay? Drones under the control of the U.S. military were in use, taking real-time photographic images of not just the activity at the ranch, but identifying the protesters, any arms, and any supplies they may have been carrying. So far, mission accomplished. They now know exactly who's there. They know the opposition. They've got the information at their disposal. Now they're simply they're digesting that information. They're assessing the true threat that the Patriot movement poses, that the militia Patriot movement poses to the BLM federal agents. Now, the second point is real-time communication intercepts between Patriots on-site and their off-site support. So not only are they monitoring the people on the ground and the munitions or the weapons that they may have to use in a defensive posture, they are also monitoring all the communication. So they're assessing the intelligence capacity of the militia on the ground at the Bundy Ranch. Also, they're actively monitoring internet traffic regarding the coverage of events. So they're no doubt monitoring me, and they're no doubt monitoring every single social outlet, Facebook, Twitter. I mean, look, the NSA is spying on every single American, and this would be just one more database for them to disseminate and scour over and collect more information on. And then the fourth is monitoring real-time video from the scene. I know personally they have satellites that can look down and watch in real time and track everything we do. So they said, this source stated that a response by the Patriot movement was anticipated, but it exceeded their expectations. And although this was a real operation, they also ran this as a test case for future government operations once they saw the response. Okay, they were also actively managing the media, in some cases threatening to cut off White House access to anyone covering the event. Okay, this is a crucial key. Everyone's been saying, well, where's the media on this? Where's the media? Where's Obama? How come there's been no statements? Well, it's because they are controlling the media. They are not they're not letting you, the American people, hear what's going on. So they're trying to assess the channels of communication, how the information is spreading, who's disseminating it, me and others. to figure out where the information is going, how it's being disseminated, how people are responding to it, so they can build sort of an entire threat matrix based on information and response times. I mean, this is how you track your enemy. And in this case, the federal government believes that the Bundy Ranch and the people on the ground are the enemy. So it's only a matter of time before the Department of Homeland Security and the FBI sweep in once again and crush this rebellion once and for all. They may have let the cattle go. They may have go ahead and let us all believe that we're free, but this is only the beginning. This is only the beginning. Mark my words. The word is getting out. So it looks like there is there's more information that's going to be released on this later in the day. We will keep you updated. Also, we are working on a very, very highly detailed analysis of the land surveys on the ground to get you the names of the corporations, the people behind it. It's not just Harry Reid, and it's not just the Chinese, faceless solar plant company. We're going to get you the names. We're going to get you the information. We're going to get you all the players involved and who is behind this land grab with the federal government against the Bundy Ranch. Stay tuned. Subscribe now. Share this video later.
All right, I thought this was a pretty good video. I thought this guy was credible. He's promised to follow up. And I told you before that I thought this was a very interesting case. I thought that this could be a test case, and I worried out loud on Friday that the Bundys may not be a good test case. But I've done a lot of research over the weekend, and I read a lot of accounts by Bundy and other people related to Bundy, and it sounds like that he is a pretty credible source. And remember, my main point about the Bundys and their credibility was not paying their grazing fees. And the Bundy daughter addressed that this weekend. She said that is in fact not the case, that they had control of this property back before Nevada was a state, and they were how can I put this? But they're saying that they didn't have to pay the grazing fees because they actually had deed and title of the land long before that area was a state or part of the United States. But at any rate, if I was to go back in and read that to you, it's kind of long and protracted by the Bundy daughter. But remember, my concern was that these Bundys may not be on the up and up and not be the most credible people, and I'm 98% certain that the Bundys are credible, and that the money that's mentioned by the government not paid in fees was actually offered by the Bundys to the state of Nevada, and that they were kind of in protest with the federal government going, you can't exact upon us grazing fees on a right we had before the actual creation of the BLM. The Bundys are claiming, look, we are in the cattle business, our family was in the cattle business long before the BLM was in existence. So that's where they're hanging their hat. But I'm of a mind right now that the Bundys are a credible family, their story's credible. Alright, how much time do I have left? I gotta do this. We're gonna miss. I should do this when I come back on Wednesday. Headline, Muslim Brotherhood has infiltrated the Pentagon at the highest levels. Let's see here. Oh, the Muslim Brotherhood flees London after British Prime Minister launches investigation. I'm telling you what, man, the Prime Minister of Britain is all over Islam. I can't think of his name right now. Prime Minister Cameron. Wish we had more time to go into that. I want to do this one story. I want to make sure I do this one story about Jay Carney. Jay Carney, Jay Carney, he is the spokesman for President Obama. And we've talked about him. Oh, we got to do this story too. Maybe that's not such an important story. I can do that. on Wednesday. I'll do Jay Carney on Wednesday. I'm glad I saw this story. This story is jaw-dropping. This is from Louisville, Kentucky, and we reported on Friday that a group of 200 black youths, you might remember, in Louisville, Kentucky, were running amok. And we talked about a video. You could have went to my Facebook page and seen it. There were hundreds of black teens going underneath this Shell Oil convenience store. I mean, they're on video. But these kids were terrorizing Louisville, Kentucky, and they were targeting these blacks were targeting whites. And now the FBI is involved. And this story I got this story from The Last Refuge, and it may be connected to Andrew Breitbart. And when we have the video, I'd like to play the video for you. I don't think I have a video, but here I'll read some of this to you because I mean this should have been my lead story today. Louisville, Kentucky, jaw-dropping update. FBI assisting Say City in hostage to coordinated middle school terror group Young in off. God, I don't know what the fuck was that. All right, here we go. I'm having a difficult time. All right, I don't know. I read this early in the morning. Let me just tell you what's going on here. The FBI is involved. There are 200 black individuals, around 200 black individuals. They're a mob. The media keeps calling them black middle school thugs. But we know now there's been some ID of some of these individuals. Remember, they now have facial recognition, thank God. And they've arrested, I believe, 3 to 5 individuals for the attacks that happened. Remember, we talked about these roving gangs last Friday. And I guess this whole MO started on March 22nd. So this is multiple events involving 200, this article's calling them thugs. It's obvious they're black if you look at this video. This is the video I was talking about on Friday. And now the FBI is involved. The mayor's involved. Obviously, the police department is involved. And the FBI is involved now. Because it was like I said on Friday, I mean, this is, what do you call it? I mean, this is premeditated. This is, I'm trying to think of the term now. You know, they're getting together. They're probably organized on Facebook or social media over the internet, and they're planning these things. All right. So this is I can't think of the term. I mean, when you're planning with others to commit a felony, regardless, this is a big deal. And what they're worried about right now is there's going to be a big celebration coming up, and I'm looking for the name of it. And the word has gone out on the streets that this mob, this gang of 200 some black youths, is going to disrupt the May 1st Kentucky Derby Festival, Pegasus Parade, which is held in Louisville every year. A Metro Police spokesman, Sergeant Phil Russell, said at a news conference Wednesday that there have been threats of violence made against the parade, but he would not elaborate. Alright, so anyway, I just wanted to make mention of that. We're going to follow this story. All you need to know that we have another example of black on white violence, this time in Louisville, Kentucky, but this is getting to the point of like this headline says, jaw-dropping. I mean, this is unbelievable. That these black youths think that they can pull off a criminal act like this. I mean, this ought to make you really sit back in your chair or sit back in your seat and ask yourself, how in the hell could you have collusion is one of the terms here. I mean, this is something that ought to just blow your mind. This is an army, 200 individuals set out to commit criminal acts, hate crimes. That's huge. And it demonstrates how the black community, mostly in cities, is devolving. This is antisocial behavior on a big scale, organized. This is racism because their motivation, their impetus, this group of 200 blacks, I mean, their motivation is against whites. All right, enough of that. I'm glad I got to that story. I just got the call that it's time to get out of here. We'll see ya on Wednesday, Hump Day with the Prophet. Keep it classy.